Hey, what's going on everybody? Boilon here and welcome to the minion video that you've been all waiting for, or not. We're going to be talking about the stats today. We're going to be talking about all of these 32 characters in Marvel Strike Force, and we're ranking them against each other. Not against the wider Marvel Strike Force roster, because I think that's not really, important to what we're trying to get at here today, which is who is the best minion characters. And by best, it's a combination, obviously, of the kit, of which we kind of know. I'm not going to be going over everyone's kit in this video, but, I will be talking about things that they get, but more broadly, the base stats of the characters and how they stack up against each other. Because I think that's the most important when, let's say, hypothetically, deciding which 5 that you want. In the scenario that, none of them get reworked, or we have is what we have now is what we're going to be using, then you kind of need to know exactly what you're looking at. So if you haven't watched my previous video where I talked about my thoughts about the minion lane more broadly, go check that out. That will be there on my channel. But this is all about the stats and kind of making the best decisions that you can. Now, warning, do not just wait until the patch. Don't build anything right now. This is broadly just to tell you who is the best as far as raw stat numbers go. And there are some actual surprising elements of this. So, and I spent a fair bit of time. So make sure you like and subscribe down below. If you haven't subscribed to the Boilon channel for all things numbers based, event based, news based, and everything like that, make sure you're up to date. So please smash that subscribe button. That would definitely help. And that like button while you're at it at the same time. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. Whoa. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what I've done. I wanted to make sure I could have all 5 of them. Can I get that in the same? Maybe not. Hopefully you guys can see that, no problem. So I've ranked this in a few ways, and by the way, if you're looking at the characters and the shades, essentially if it's green, they're rank 1 to 5. This means that their stats are very good compared to the other minions. 6 to 10, orange, 11 plus red. Now, I realize that there's 32, and so 11 plus, a lot of them are going to be red. But the reasoning for this is that basically, if they're beyond the top 10 in a stat, then it sucks. And it probably isn't really worth it. You'll see that a lot of the older characters have a lot of red because their base stats have never been touched. There might be some surprising, parts here and there, but more broadly, we're wanting to look at characters who have more green and orange, and that will kind of showcase, characters that are worth considering. Some of these we're going to go through really quickly because there's just really not much to say about them at this point. And all of this is based on level 85, 7 yellow, 5 red, blue ISO 2, gear 15, and Stark Tech 25%. These are similar numbers that I've used for other videos with relation to stats, and even for newer characters, which I understand people won't have a 7 yellow for. But when it comes to rework characters, minion characters that we probably already have available to us, I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. I think that if we're talking about the SCOURGE particularly, that a lot of people are going to have at least the potential to be able to get them to this stage. So that's why. So let's talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. There's not really much to talk about. So S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't been touched in a very long time. It's been... I don't even think they were reworked slightly when Kestrel came out, because I know that there was some adjustments to the Nick Fury kit, and possibly the Coulson kit. I honestly don't remember. But otherwise, that's what we're talking about, is the Agent Coulson S.H.I.E.L.D. rework, which would have been when they were made into War Defense, which was some time ago now, I don't know, 3 years ago. At this point, I'm pretty sure it was pre-pandemic, 2019. So you can see that their stats are not good. One thing that's surprising, S.H.I.E.L.D. Assault has a top 5 armor stat out of all of the minions. S.H.I.E.L.D. Security still performs pretty well in the armor and resistance, both at number 3 out of all the minions, but otherwise they're kind of crap. Their health is not very good. And, it's Medic has some of the best. Actually, S.H.I.E.L.D. Trooper's pretty garbage across the board. So the minions are not very good in the S.H.I.E.L.D. minions across the board. But that shouldn't be really too surprising given the fact they're super old. Cree. Now, they're also pretty old as well. And they're also pretty garbage. Red, all across the board. Noble, Oracle, Royal Guard, Reaper. Reaper's the only one. This is focus here. Number 1 focus out of all the minions. This one's a little bit surprising. Reaper does have a bleed effect on her special, but other than that, Cree minions were reworked a long time ago. I think probably around the time of Minerva's release, which was early 2020. I think. Or was she reworked before then? It might have been 2019 as well, honestly. I don't remember. Because I know Minerva came out when Captain Marvel was come out, and they were Cree, so I thought that there was a rework around then, but I honestly can't remember. Maybe the Cree rework, the Cree minion rework actually happened before. But it was sometime after Nick Fury, because people were pissed off, right? Because you needed the Cree minions to unlock Nick Fury, and people were pissed off that they were crap. There was a rework that happened sometime later, and then at some time later, I guess, Minerva and Captain Marvel came out. Now, Hydra. They were reworked, not recently, but they were reworked more recently than Cree. But their stats still are not super great. Hydra Armored Guard, red across the board. Grenadier, red across the board. Although health and damage actually is about 11. So it's kind of straddling the line there a little bit. Scientist has a resistance ranking of 1. The best out of all the minions. Shocking, isn't it? A little bit. Sniper, red across the board. Rifle Trooper, red across the board. As far as damage stat goes, though, because the first one here is health, and the second one is damage. Rifle Trooper's at 13. Sniper's at 12. Grenadier's actually at 11, like I said. So they're kind of straddling the line. But unless they get a rework, this is not a team that you're going to want to be considering either. Now, AIM. This is a slightly more interesting one, because yes, it is an old rework, but the synergies that they had together was pretty good. However, and this is probably a big however, that they kind of rely and crutch upon their marquee characters to function. Scientist Supreme, Graviton to some extent, but largely Scientist Supreme. For AIM security, for example, Scientist Supreme is a requirement in order to taunt well and then chuck the negative status effects back. And so wanting to use these characters is not a good idea without a marquee character, which we're not going to really have because it's a minion lane. Now, AIM Assaulter, has a damage stat of 3, which is good. However, last in resistance, other stats over here, Focus, Infector, number 3, but Infector kind of sucks in my opinion. Even when AIM did get reworked, I never did use Infector. I just was never a big fan of Infector. I don't know why, I just don't like the kit. Armor, number 6. Monstrosity has a damage stat of number 6. Now, what's really interesting, I kind of love AIM Monstrosity, but the other stats kind of suck. AIM Monstrosity has that thing where he goes and smashes the... Well, if you have the T4 in the special, he actually gives offense up to adjacent allies first, and then does the attack. And I thought it was really cool. I think I have a 6 red Monstrosity, and so I actually did invest a little bit into AIM when they had their rework, because I thought they were a lot of fun. And so I did actually get my Monstrosity up. My Monstrosity is I think it's still gear 12 or 13. But... like high reds, and I would consider using it if AIM ever got a rework. And I really, that damage stat is good, but the other stats are garbage. 29 out of 32 in health, armor 22 out of 32, resistance 30 out of and 77 speed. He's slow as all hell, and most of the minions are, which is a big problem. We're gonna go over this at the end though about the speed problem. AIM Researcher, number 3 in hit points. Now, some of you guys may remember the video, if you guys watched the previous video that I did about minions and my thoughts. And that's why AIM Researcher was hearted for me, because, and still is actually, because she has a 3rd highest health pool in the game. And you can see right next to her is security at 2. And so, AIM Researcher as a healer has very large hit points, and the rest of the stats kind of suck. But makes me think whether or not this might have any value as from a healing perspective. Because AIM Researcher, and I really want to specifically point this one out, is that AIM Researcher at level 6 here, you can see plus 5, I don't have the ability leveled, but it's 10,000 health, plus 15% of this character's hit points, an extra 7,000 if you get the level 7, which my head is in the way. It flips bleed, but that's a lot of hit points. Unfortunately, and it's adjacent allies as well. So you could affect multiple people with this heal. So it could get to about 15% and 10,000 flat. not a lot. But the 15% part, and if you get the healer ISO on top, that'll be even more. When they have a health pool of over 500,000 for this character at level 85, gear 15. It's a lot. It's close to Ravager Stitcher. I think he's number 1, and we're going to get there. But still, really interesting. Aim Researcher. Keep an eye out. If you have really high red stars in Aim Researcher, put a heart on that, just in case. Aim Security, 2 in Health, 2 in Focus, 2 in Resistance. Very good, actually. Problem is that Aim Security, like I said earlier, kind of needs Scientist Supreme to function with the tanking part. And the throwing back of the negative stats effects, which is pretty important to aim. Mercs. Health. 5 on Soldier. Damage 1. If you want to know which minion has the highest damage stat, it's Merc Soldier. Because Merc Soldier has a passive that works on himself, which is extended to his team in War, I believe. And I actually have it. 25% flat damage. Actually, sorry, he gets a total of plus 40% damage. Just to himself. And then he extends that in War to himself. He gets more. And gives it to skilletary and military allies. Crazy. But more broadly, his stats, his kits... like, I mean, if you get the T4, you could transfer a positive effect to himself because you're not using skill military allies in the Scourge, and you're not in War and stuff like that. So it's just like a semi-AoE attack with bleed. Nothing really important. His basics just damage. So not the best. But his stats are good. Damage 1, health 5, armor 8, focus 10, resistance 6. This is probably the best character so far as stats. Merc Sniper, garbage. 4th in damage, but kit, garbage. Lieutenant, he has a good kit-ish, right? So we need to talk about him a little bit. Where is he? I don't have him that. And I only have 4 red, unfortunately, on Merc Lieutenant. So a lot of it comes from his special, because it's on a cooldown of 2. You could literally spam this, like, every other turn. So he's getting offense up and speed up to basically the whole team. You know, and that's pretty good. And then his passive doesn't always heal. Even if you get the T4, it has a 40% chance to heal the most injured ally for 20% of his max health. If it's a Merc, if you're running like Merc Soldier, it might be a little bit better. But otherwise, war defense stuff. And his health is not good. He is last. His health pool is last. So that healing is not going to be worth much. So you're essentially taking him for the buffs. Whether or not he lives or not, like, are you going to want to gear 14, 15 a character that's going to die really quickly? Probably not. And Riot Guard doesn't really have much better. He's got the defense up with the taunt, but if you're running Ravagers, you don't actually need Riot Guard special. Because Ravager Bruiser can keep defense up on himself and other Ravagers just fine. And so you don't need that. And so I'm very skeptical about the value overall of Lieutenant and Riot Guard. You're essentially taking Lieutenant to buff your team. But you don't necessarily need this either, because if you're going to be running the Ravagers, let's say hypothetically, that they can buff up, they spawn with offense up, which is what Lieutenant would give. You would just get speed up instead. Hand, let's talk about this a little bit. Hand Sentry, garbage. No question of that. Assassin, pretty much garbage. Has a damage stat of 7 out of 32, which is a bit surprising. Sorceress, garbage. Archer, okay, so this is where things get a little bit... Archer and Blade Master. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. Health, 8. Damage, 8. Armor. Sorry, focus. Oh, oops, focus is 4th. 1. That's not a surprise. So actually, where was that part where I said 1? So this third column actually for security, that's not focus. That's armor actually, which makes sense now that I think about it. Archer, 1 on focus. So the stats are actually pretty good, I have to admit. And Archer gets a special consideration here because Archer and Blade Master, because of the rework, base stat increase to them. They're at the top. I've always had our Hand Archer at the top. And I like his skill on his special. Now, I wish it cleared more than 1 positive stats effect. If it was 2, that'd be great. But this is a guaranteed clear. Now, unfortunately, it's on a cooldown of 4. His passive Not very good, but his damage goes up if there's other hand allies. The accuracy is kind of not really that important because, I mean, 10% is what it is. But if you're running him alongside Hand Blade Master, now he gets an extra 10% damage. Unfortunately, his kit is very basic outside of the special, and so there's really not a whole lot to say there. Hand Blade Master, on the other hand, has some really good numbers as well. 7 on health, 2 on damage, 10 on armor, 4 on focus, and 5 on resistance. So this is probably one of the best characters as far as green and yellows go here in terms of the categories outside of Ravagers. And Hand Blade Master did get a bump in his special where if you put the T4 in, which I know sounds disgusting, you get a bonus attack, guaranteed. And that does a lot of damage. If we're plus 60%, if I got that, oh, I don't even have this one. So if I got this and this, 6 and 7, that's 120%. This would do 430% plus 380%. That's, sorry, what is that? Like 810% total in one hit? That's huge. That's a lot of damage. And then, of course, he's got a damage passive, too, so you can bump his own passive damage up to 25%. Like, he's pure damage. That's simple. But maybe there might be some value in this hard-hitting character. You know, if you can keep him alive with the Ravagers, if there's no rework, then this might be something to talk about. And that's where we're going to end off, is with the Ravagers. Now, Ravager Boomer, on the surface, does not look super great. He has a damage stat of 5 out of 32, and a focus of 6 out of 32, which he needs to land his slow and his basic. But he reduces turn bar in a semi-AoE fashion, and he gives offense up on spawn to all of the other Ravagers. Bruiser has a really good kit as well. Good kit, good stats as well. 4 in health, 9 in damage, 4 in armor, 2 in focus, and 10 in resistance. And he gives defense up on spawn and can also give it up later to the Ravagers. Stitcher, number 1 in health. One of the best reworked Ravagers and reworked kits. We've discussed this in the past. 570k health there. Number 10 in damage, which surprisingly his basic isn't terrible. It does a fair bit of damage if you geared him up. For those of you with a Gear 16 Stitcher, you might be laughing yourself to the bank because you might be using him quite a bit here. 11 in armor, 5 in focus, and 4 in resistance. They also all had a speed rework base stat improvement, 108, 111, and 110. And that's what I kind of want to finish off with, is that they're all fucking slow. I'm sorry, but they are. Outside of a couple of the hand characters, you know, I'm shocked actually how fast the hand characters are. 103, 109, 105, 107, 111. But look at the rest of them. Mercs, Soldier, 100, 96, 100, 90, 76, aim security, 81, 77, 114, 180. I'm surprised they're a bit faster than that. But the average speed is somewhere around like the 110 mark. Which means that anything, especially below 100, is slow as hell. 92 Hydra Armored Guard, 87, 94, 93, 95. 83 Reaper, Cree Reaper, Royal Guard 117, shockingly fast, I don't know why. 97 for Oracle, 86 for Noble, 79 for Cyborg, 97 for Shield Assault, 109 for Medic, Operative, and so on and so forth. They're all really pretty slow, with the exception of a few characters. And this is a big problem, because in a speed-based, turn-based game, it's important to have some of the highest speed that you possibly can. So the Ravagers there perform very well across the board. Hand also performs very well across the board. 107, 111. If nothing happens in this game, I'm going to be going for the Ravagers and Hand Archer and Hand Blade Master, I think. Or Aim Researcher, for the reasons that I mentioned before. I haven't decided. So the 3 Ravagers plus 2 of these other 3 characters. If nothing happens. And we'll find out more, of course, by the expected patch date of Tuesday, November the 29th, or Wednesday, November the 30th, because we're not going to have any more information because there's no blog post for Friday because of Thanksgiving and all that. So I don't know when this video is going to be released, but if Thanksgiving is happening in the US, happy Thanksgiving. For me as a Canadian, I've already had that last month, so not a big deal for me. But until next time, everyone, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Let me know in the comments down below which minions you're most impressed with. Boilon signing out.